that actually was, some of the public comment that we've received from them that really prompted me to ask Brad to do the analysis that he did. And so what I'm drawn to is looking at the debt differentials here. And, there's clearly a differential, but, I'm drawn to the word, greatly. And I'm having a hard time seeing that it meets that threshold. And then when I, take it a step further, I guess I could be, perhaps I could be persuaded if the end result was a dramatic difference in the tax rate, but it all seems to come out in the wash. Yeah, there's a little, there is a little bit of disparity in the end in the tax rates, but it's not. It doesn't manifest itself in a significant differential.
I thought was interesting is that it wouldn't have been a difference if they had merged under the voluntary program because of the different tax incentives. So if that first year of the 10 cents, then 864, that it wouldn't have been an issue, period.
Yep.
But it's just that in this phase of the law that we're in, there is
Looks like they
some
were seeing a
difference.
slight decrease, just based on these numbers, if you just did the simple math. I know it's not that easy, but.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so all of these schools are schools that have the same Union High School. They all participate in the Union High School, and their elementary schools all operate the same systems. And the secretary made a consistent decision to merge, suggested that all of those would be in the best interest of merging. And so we've gone through various processes, and are people in a part where people would like to start voting? John?
May I just ask for somebody who knows better than I, what was the reason that Secretary peeled Sheldon out from the group that it's with?
Operating system.
Just the operating?
Yeah, they have a different
Operating.
operating structure than the other members of the Union School District.
So it would then come under, when we look at the SU process, what would be the most appropriate?
Yeah,
Would
yeah.
it be keeping Sheldon? Which I found very interesting that, I know Franklin sent a lot of public testimony, that they have relationships, like if you look at this map, with all over Franklin County. They share teachers in Montgomery, I believe Montgomery, Fairfax. So there's quite a connection between the schools, even outside the SUs, which I thought was really interesting. That is happening. But I think that might be part of the discussion about SU boundaries. Yeah, Oliver.
So unless there's anything else, if we're ready to start voting, I can.
Would you like to make a motion?
I can offer the first motion, but I want to make sure if there's any other discussion. Alrighty.
Did we decide anything on Oxbow and Blue Mountain, or?
We haven't made any decisions,
No,
so right now it's
yeah,
just
we're starting
discussion.
at the top of the list and
Yeah.
working our way down. So for reasons articulated in the Secretary of Education's June 1st, 2018 proposed statewide education governance plans proposal for the, for the Brattleboro Union School District, Brattleboro, Dummerston, Guilford, and Putney School Districts, I move that the board provisionally find that the proposal satisfies and meets the requirements of Act 46 as amended, our rules and other applicable law, and two, approve that the Secretary's proposal for those school districts, subject to final approval by the board after further review and deliberation prior to November 30th, 2018.
Seconded by John. So discussion on Brattleboro. John?
I'd like to just say that my vote on this would not only be provisional, it would be conditional. Now, I'm in no position to be placing conditions on things, I understand that. But I want you to understand, I think you kind of do understand, but I just want it to be real clear that my support of the language in front of us of this motion really is conditional upon some accommodation to the situation that is on the ground in these communities. And so I think my Manchester colleagues' suggestion about a 12-month delay on the deadline or something of that nature, that is to say, we're certainly in a position to make recommendations to the General Assembly at any time. And I know you sort of are thinking, well, we'll do in a legislative agenda. But to me, understanding what our recommendations to the General Assembly would be in connection with our work on the state plan is imperative to knowing what it is we're signing up for, in my case. So, and again, these are not conditions, but I'm just trying to say, you're going to keep hearing from me about delaying implementation on not all, but some of the really kind of hairy cases we've got. Also, I would think that there's some interest on our part in urging the General Assembly to address debt inequities where they are great, when they might otherwise impede very good things. We might even ask the General Assembly, and I'm not asking for your consent on any of this, to address tax rate differentials in the way that had been done in voluntary mergers. And finally, we might consider urging the General Assembly to provide funding for facilitation / consultation, because surely that, one way or another, that kind of intermediation is going to be needed to move the ball down the field in these communities. So I'm just saying that my vote in the affirmative on this is conditional upon and provisional upon my hope that we can move in the direction of some of these urgings to the General Assembly.
I just want you to be mindful when you are voting, though, and thinking about this. This is the way the law is written right now is the law until it's changed. And the legislature's not back in session until January.
I'm aware of
Budgets
these
for
facts,
school.
thank you.
Yeah, but I just want to make sure, so budgets for school are October is when they're made. And so I want to make sure we're not sending mixed messages to different school boards too, because to create a budget, they'd have to be really aggressive and start now. That's why the Vermont School Boards Association asked us to actually have extra meetings in
Understand.
October to try to get done as soon as possible.
I understand.
So, yeah.
You know, I'm not as warm and fuzzy as my colleague from Norwich on these issues. And, you know, I think I'm one of the more rigid ones on this, but I think, you know, I can commit to him that I would back the 2020 date as far as when we're doing a legislative package. I don't think it's promising anything. I think it's just, at least me saying to the folks that we're considering today, that I understand that it's a tight turnaround and that, you know, there are a lot of pieces here. Like John was saying, there's communities that aren't necessarily talking to each other right now, and that could take some time, and it could take some additional resources, and sometimes it takes somebody to come in from, like AOE, for example, to try to work on these issues. So I think it's not, I don't feel like I'm promising anything. I'm promising something to John that later I would support a legislative package that would push off that date. Whether we can convince the legislature to do it,
That's another matter.
yeah, but I can at least personally, as a citizen of the state, get behind that idea.
Stacy?
Well, I like your $1 a day for working analogy, the opposite, I think. But I just thinking about, those resources were offered to communities.
Mhm.
The agency at much time and expense had meetings and conversations and consultants available and money for that. That's been offered and either not utilized or decided it wasn't needed, or, I don't know. I think I'm having a hard time squaring those two.
Yeah, and I don't propose that necessarily for my own purpose.
Well, just careful, we have a motion on the floor for Brattleboro Union, so I'll make
Yeah.
sure we're sticking
Okay.
with that for right now.
But it just